miss you too, Chloe, I whispered into the phone, standing exactly 3 inches away from the bedroom door. Inside, I could hear her sharp, rhythmic gasps and the low, guttural laugh of the man who wasn't me. Is everything okay? You sound out of breath. There was a frozen silence. Then Chloe's voice came through the receiver, steady as a veteran spy. Just doing some yoga before bed, Eric. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Love you. She hung up. I stood there in the dark hallway, watching the silhouette of our neighbor Julian through the frosted glass of the door. The breach was complete. Now, the deletion begins. My name is Eric, and for most of my adult life, I believed I had the structural integrity of everything around me under absolute control. I work as a senior architectural forensics consultant, the kind of job where you identify the invisible cracks in a skyscraper before the whole thing tilts. I was good at it. Calm, observant, always looking for the one weak point that could bring down a foundation. But I realized too late that my own marriage was built on quicksand. I remember the way Chloe held the pen during our final meeting. It was a heavy, silver fountain pen, and she gripped it so tight I thought the barrel would snap. We sat across from each other in a cold, glass-walled conference room. No tears, no screaming, just the rhythmic, sharp exhale every time her signature hit a new page of the divorce decree. When she finished, she didn't look at me. She stared at the skyline behind me, her jaw so tight it looked like carved stone. That moment took me back to the afternoon the floor dropped out from under me. The days she stood in our living room, smirked with a terrifying pride, and said, "Eric, I've been sleeping with the neighbor for years, and honestly, he's everything you aren't." She expected me to shatter. Instead, I simply smiled. People think the story starts with that betrayal, but it was rooted much deeper. I met Chloe 10 years ago at a high-end charity gala. She was a marketing director for a luxury brand, sharp-witted, loud-laughing, and capable of commanding a room without saying a word. We clicked with a violent intensity. Within 18 months, we were married. Before the wedding, my father, a cynical old litigator, pulled me aside. "Eric," he said, "get a prenup. Love is a feeling. A marriage is a legal merger. Protect your assets." I hated the idea at the time. Chloe hated it even more. "Are we already anticipating the end?" she cried. But eventually, she signed. The clause was simple. If either party committed infidelity, the guilty spouse would forfeit almost everything, leaving with only personal items and a nominal exit sum. She laughed as she signed it, calling it a useless piece of paper. The first few years were solid. We were building a life, or so I thought. But after Chloe suffered a devastating miscarriage in our 3rd year, something in the foundation shifted. She shut down. I tried to reach her, but it was like trying to punch through a reinforced concrete wall. She began throwing herself into networking events. Her dresses got shorter, her heels higher, and her perfume, a heavy, musky scent I didn't recognize, started appearing on her skin. That was when our neighbor Julian moved in. He was a celebrity fitness coach with a smile that felt manufactured in a factory. Chloe was consulting on his brand, she said. The signs were there. Her phone was always face down. She'd receive late-night texts that made her smirk at the screen. Then, the financial anomalies started. I noticed a line of credit opened in my name that I hadn't authorized. When I confronted her, she was smooth, practiced. "It's a clerical error, Eric. Why are you always so suspicious?" She used gaslighting like a professional tool. Little did she know, I was already documenting the cracks. I decided to catch them in the act to ensure the prenup was ironclad. I told Chloe I was heading to a structural audit in New York for 3 days. She barely hid her excitement. I drove out of the garage, looped back 2 hours later, and let myself in through the basement entrance. I didn't have to wait long. I heard them in the master suite, the sounds of a betrayal that had been happening in my own bed for years. I moved to the hallway, my camera ready. But as I reached for the door handle, Chloe's phone rang. It was a scheduled check-in call I had automated from my laptop. "Hey, Eric," she said, her voice breathy, right while Julian was literally inches from her. "How's New York? I'm just about to head to sleep." I was standing 3 inches away on the other side of the door. I could hear her voice through the wood and through my own phone simultaneously. "I miss you too, Chloe," I whispered. "Is everything okay? You sound out of breath." Julian let out a muffled grunt of laughter. Chloe hissed at him to be quiet. "Just doing some yoga," she lied. She hung up. I stood there in the dark, the sheer audacity of her deceit vibrating through my bones. I could have walked in then, but I wanted more. I wanted them to feel the full weight of the collapse. To finalize the legal trap, I had been working closely with Julian's ex-fiancée, Sarah. We were meeting in a dark, rain-slicked parking lot near the harbor to exchange the final bank statements Chloe had forged. The air in the car was thick with the shared scent of rain and a desperate, jagged energy. "They think they've won, Eric," Sarah whispered. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was a dark fire in them. "They think we're just the discarded rubble of their perfect affair." The trauma of being betrayed by the same Tusaram bonded us in a way that felt dangerous. I reached out to take the documents, and our hands met. The touch wasn't comfort, it was a spark in a room full of gasoline. In that cramped, dark sanctuary of the car, the lines blurred. We weren't just victims anymore, we were conspirators. But as the intensity between us peaked, a sudden, blinding light cut through the fogged-up windows. A security patrol car had pulled up right behind us. "Shit, stay down," I hissed, pushing Sarah toward the floorboards and throwing my overcoat over her. The officer tapped on my window. I rolled it down just an inch, my heart hammering. "Everything okay here, sir?" the officer asked, peering into the dark cabin. "Just had a bit too much to drink and decided to sleep it off, officer," I said, my voice eerily calm. He lingered, his light dancing over the fogged glass and my disheveled collar. Finally, he nodded. "Move it along, sir." As he drove away, Sarah climbed back up, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The terror of being caught, the very thing our spouses were doing to us, acted like a powerful catalyst. We didn't leave. We stayed in that dark car, finishing our silent pact with a feverish intensity that felt like the only real thing left in the world. The next morning, I sat in the living room, waiting. When Chloe walked in, still glowing from her night with Julian, she tried to act the part of the tired wife. "Oh, Eric, you're back early," she said, reaching for a kiss. I stepped back. "Do you have something to confess, Chloe?" That was when she smirked. That was when she told me about Julian, expecting me to crumble. When I showed her the folder, the photos, the forged loan documents, and the video from the night before, her face didn't just pale, it disintegrated. "I'm keeping the house, the accounts, and the firm," I said. "You have 30 minutes to pack a suitcase. Julian has already been served with a restraining order, and his gym is being investigated for the fraud you helped him commit." The fallout was absolute. Chloe tried to fight the prenup, but her own attorney told her it was a lost cause once the fraud evidence was presented. She moved into a cramped studio, her lifestyle vanishing overnight. Julian vanished the moment things got complicated, leaving her with nothing but the debt they had accrued together. A year later, I stand in my new apartment, looking out at a different view. The cracks are gone. The foundation is solid. Sometimes I see Sarah, and we share a look that needs no words, a secret bond forged in the dark. Chloe thought her confession would be my ending. She didn't realize it was the only way I could finally start to build something real. Living well isn't just revenge, it's the ultimate structural repair. I am free.